Ready to go? Okay, cool. So what I did today was, I can guarantee this, I'm actually kind of humbled to be here because I'm in the room with some really like heavy hitters. And what I'm going to say here is probably, it's going to be different because it's like I just started over again, you know. So how do you get moving and how do you get started? And I'm not the guy who's going to tell you how to do social media and all of that, because you guys all know, like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do the videos. So I figured, like, what can I do and what do I know and how can I make that work for me? And that's basically what I did. So I was talking to Sean about it, and I came up with this, and it was like what I wish I knew then and could not do without now. So what do I need that gets me over the hump on every sale or, you know, every meeting with clients? So first thing is contracts. You don't have to know everything. You don't. You know, this whole focus, you know, go take the board course, you know, they'll go through the contract with you line by line. That's really good enough. And people say, well, you could get in trouble not knowing the contracts. I don't think that's true. I think really if you follow, and the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If you follow that rule, you'll probably eliminate 99% of the problems you'll ever have in real estate. Okay, now I'm talking about litigation and everything. If you wouldn't want somebody to do something, or if you see something going on that you don't feel comfortable with, stop and figure it out. And then, like, tell the client, people don't buy houses because things are wrong with the house. People don't buy houses because they don't know what's wrong with the house. So if they know what's wrong, they're still going to buy that house. But when they're like worried or concerned, then you're not selling that house. So as you go through the house, if you see something wrong, point it out. You know, it also gives you a level of trust, you know, with the people you're working with, because they're going to see you have some knowledge and that you're valuable to them, and you're not just trying to push them into a home. I'm probably pretty famous for saying this isn't the house for you. You know, I said it to Steve Larrett this weekend. I'm like, that's not the house for them. I hope they don't get it. And it was not the house for them. He did text me though last night and say, hey, your buyer's interested because my deal's falling through, but I sold my house on Sunday, right? So that's what happens. That's life. So the buyer agency contract, just really quick, I want to hit a couple things. I've done it and I still do it sometimes. In my pay, I put per MLS. Okay, but here's the thing. If you sell them a home, if you sell your buyers a home and it's not in the MLS, technically they don't owe you a commission. So if you have a for sale by owner or you find a property for them and it's not in the MLS and you have that in there, they don't owe you. So some of you probably knew that. Another issue is when you review the sales contract, most of us wait until the very end. Most of the buyers never even read it. And that's going to be a personal issue from buyer to buyer. And I think that comes down to your personality of your buyers. Like for some of you guys, like this is old hat. You're going to have certain buyers. Like I went to a settlement recently where literally the two buyers read every line of every mortgage paper, and I was about ready to pull my hair out. I had the listing, and they sat there. Somebody should have given them that packet ahead of time, okay, to read if they were going to do that. There was no sense in taking up all that time sitting at the settlement table. So a lot of times, if I have somebody like that, I will ask the mortgage company to send me the packet. We'll get everything signed that doesn't need to be notarized. So when you go to the settlement table, you just present those papers and you're done. Okay, it's a lot easier. And that way you can also have the meeting on your terms without the pressure of everybody sitting around watching you at the settlement table. And they're also more inclined then to ask you questions, you know, or any concerns. Because at that point you have their confidence and they're going to look to you for guidance. Engaging the client. And again, I think Rob would probably be a better person up here to do this, or Sean. But I've had to say, like, what works for me. So I just started with my old client list. And I started going back through my emails back to like 2010, believe it or not, and pulled up everybody's name and emails and corrected emails and started reaching out to everybody. And some of the people actually were ready to buy a house or sell a house. Imagine that. And then I started asking questions, and Steve Larrett and I were talking about this, like, who do you know wants to buy or sell a house in the next 2 months, 2 weeks? It wasn't working. A year, nothing. So I said, how about 5 years? Well, amazingly, everybody knows somebody who wants to buy or sell a house in 5 years. Can you imagine that? So it was just hit or miss. It's stupid, 5 years. Oh, my cousin, guess what? We got hooked up with the one girl's cousin, and they just bought that house on Sunday. And now they're going to list their house also with me.
Good question. You're going to get a yes.
Exactly.
And then you're going to get an introduction to someone, and then like that's what you really need.
And that's what Steve Larrett pointed out to me, because he and I were discussing like why I wasn't getting a good response. So I just kept extending the timeline. And he said, well, you're going to get a yes. That was exactly what he said, Rob. I never thought about it like that. But
And the question I have is, do you think it's a real true 5 years? Like if you do say 5 years, I think it's actually sooner. They're thinking 5 years out, but they could be sooner.
I'm not even looking for them. I just want to know who they know.
Yeah.
Really, you know?
Okay.
Oh yeah, my friend's talking about moving in 2 years. Well, what's your friend's name? What's the phone number? Can I call them? Can I use your name? You know? And then the clients are going to come to you and they're going to say, this is what I want in a house. I had a client who wanted a rancher, wanted an acre, and did not want electric heat. Bought a 2-story colonial with electric heat in a PUD. It's where they put a whole lot of houses on an acre, so they don't have to run all the all the sewer and everything else. So for the builder, it's a lot cheaper to build a PUD. In other words, the houses are on, like, say, a small portion of the ground, the rest of it is open space. But the builder then doesn't have to run all the roads and electrical lines, water, sewer, and all, so he saves money. So the houses are really tight, like reach out and touch your neighbor tight. That's what they bought. So what does the client really want? Normally they're focused on a location or a school district, okay? They may tell you the type of home, but most people, when they go out to buy a house, one of the parties is probably going to be anxious because they're usually the person who's going to be providing most of the income to pay for that house. That's been my experience. So it could be the husband, it could be the wife. But ultimately, you're going to see that one of them is going to drive the deal. So watch out, because sometimes it's not who you think it's going to be. Okay? And then ignore half of what they say, because they don't know. They just don't know what they want. They think they know what they want, but until they see it, they don't know. So what's really important to the client, after you see them in action walking them through houses, you'll know it works. The couple who I sold a house to on Sunday, I'm just going to use them as an example because it's really easy, bought a 2-story colonial on half an acre, already fenced, already has the deck, space for the office, sunroom addition, okay? A little bit over their price range, but when I told the guy, hey, it's like $42 a month more than you wanted to spend, are you willing to lose it? And all they wanted to see were ranchers. Now they're coming out of a house that's 1,200 square foot. They wanted to make a lateral move from 400 to 400, which is impossible, but they thought they could. So then they start looking at these 1,400 square foot capes, and they just weren't working. They're like, well, we have to do an addition, we have to do this. Well, where's that money coming from? Think about it. It's easier just to put it in the mortgage now. But every time they walked into a 2-story colonial, that worked for them. The bi-levels didn't work, but those 2-story colonials, so I kept saying, you're 2-story colonial people. So the next step was buying from pictures. Hate it. It's the worst thing that ever happened is all this Zillow and all. It makes it too hard because you can't engage with your clients because they're going to look at a house, look at the picture and say, that's the house I want to go see. Okay, but that's probably not the house they're going to buy. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But it gives you an idea of what they're looking for. But like this one client actually told me, she goes, I can't get past all that old people furniture. Seriously, she could not. So I said, well, so then they would pick a house and then I would set up 2 more. And I said, come on, we're going to see these other 2. And they walked in, no, these room sizes work. This works, that works. So don't listen to what they say all the time. You know, watch them, listen to them, see what they get excited about. I mean, you'll see the eyes start to get all bright and happy and they get excited. And so now you're onto something and now you can start to kind of figure out what's going to work, you know, for that buyer.
I think that's a super important point you just laid kind of quick.
Go ahead.
Which is, look at their reaction.
Exactly.
Yeah. Look at their emotional reactions to things. And if they're like, oh, like you don't want to buy this house, they're feeling anxious, or if they're feeling happy, like read their emotions more than what they say.
And that's all it is, really. Watch them, watch their faces, watch their eyes. Make sure they step into every room. Make sure they look at the closets, because I have a theory, and it's my own personal theory, that people don't buy houses unless they see everything. So if the person's peeking into the room, so I walk in, I'm like, hey, you got to come see this closet. You know, you got to get them in. You got to get them into those rooms. And also, shut up sometimes. Early lesson, showed a house, working with these people. I thought it was a real piece of junk. They liked it.
I made the mistake.
Oh. And then I said, isn't that, and then we were talking about the paint, and I said, oh my God, that is the most horrible green paint. They loved it. They stopped working with me. So, you're neutral. If you see something really cool and you know it's cool and they think it's cool, obviously, you know, point that out. But there are times when, like, I've stuck my foot in my mouth and that wasn't really a good thing to do.
I think it comes down to like stylistic choices versus like material defect. Like if you see a crack in the foundation, you know, point that out.
And keep in mind, keep it objective, right? Opinions are subjective, so like nobody cares what I think in there anyways.
Right.
They ask.
But if you see something that's like screwed up, they usually.
It's all that too.
Right, we just saw a foundation, so it was block house, and there was a foundation, it was a flip. And they heavily dry locked the block, but there was a horizontal crack in that block about halfway down, and we had a wall bulge of about 1 inch, and they completely ignored it like it didn't exist. Well, that's the worst crack you can have. Yeah, horizontal crack. If you see that, you know, you better get yourself probably a good structural engineer if your clients want to buy that house. If the crack runs sideways or it runs diagonal, it's usually not too bad, but then run your hand over the crack and see if you have a shift in the foundation. If it's smooth, you're probably okay, but at the same time, if you feel like a bulge coming out, you might have a structural issue at that house. New construction, I'll be really quick. Just got a phone call the other day, referral from one of our guys here. Foundation shifted, cracked and shifted. The builder said, I'm not responsible. You have a 1-year warranty. In Pennsylvania, all new construction structural issues have a 12-year implied warranty.
12 years.
12 years. So that's important.
What would happen if it was a small builder, if they weren't still around?
Yeah, they go bankrupt is usually what they do. You're stuck.
So you have a little more leverage with a larger builder that you guys aren't going out of business.
Definitely. Yeah, because I've watched, and the small builders will go out, and then they'll just come back under a different name. They clean out their bank accounts, so there's nothing to get, you know. And buying a house is emotional. It's stressful. So as agents, you have to have some compassion for these people. Understand their anxiety, understand their stress. You try to alleviate it, but you're not going to be able to do it all the time. So having good people work with you, like mortgage lenders and all, makes a huge difference. If they can connect with a mortgage lender, if they have faith in that mortgage lender, that makes your job easier too. And then set realistic expectations. If you have a $500,000 client, don't show them an $800,000 house, because they will never ever buy that $500,000 house, because now all they have in their mind is this. So what I used to do in the old days was great because we didn't have all this media. So we had a homes magazine that went out once a week. People would call on that ad, and off of one ad one time I sold 16 houses. So I liked it better then for those reasons, okay? Because they're not calling all these other agents. They called on that ad, they wanted to see that house, they called you. Really nice. So set the expectations realistically, and what I do a lot of times if I'm showing a lot of houses, some people say I'm doing it wrong, but I show them the worst house first and work my way up to the best. And some people say, well, that's crazy, but good.
The question I have is, do you think from the social media now has made the agents lazier? And what did you do back in the day when you didn't see the inside of the house that client wanted to see? Did you have to go to all the houses and really get to know? Because like now, we just look at pictures and we can kind of tell. But what did you do back when we didn't have Facebook we didn't have Zillow, we didn't have the MLS with all the pictures and all that stuff?
Usually, you would have to go see each house. I mean, we had books that came out every 2 weeks. How up to date do you think they were? They were like this thick. The picture was like this big in black and white. Okay, and then we used dial-up. We had to put the phone into that modem thing, and you're trying to print, you know, there's no pictures coming up, and so the printer's going zzz, zzz, and you might as well go to lunch while it's printing because it's going to take an hour to get your printout done. So in order to get work done, you had to go into the office at 10 o'clock at night when nobody was there because it's the only time you can get on the computer and get the printer working. And I actually went out and bought my first computer in the 80s, and I think I paid like almost $3,000 for the computer and $750 for the printer.
Wow.
Then, so we are very lucky today. Very lucky. That was a big expense back then. I could have bought a car for that, seriously. Well, my kind of car anyhow. Maybe not your kind of car. Home inspections.
Greg had a question.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
can you go over like the talk track when someone gives you, they know someone in the coming 5 years?
Sure.
What if it's truly 5 years? Like,
That's fine.
yeah, I mean, like, so what's your next steps with them? You reach out to them directly, and once you get the feel that it's 3 or 5 years, is it just a constant drip for the next 3 to 5 years? Is it sending them information, or like, what's the?
I asked them how often they want to be contacted.
Yeah.
You know, could I keep in contact with you, and how often would you like to be? Because I know I get annoyed by companies that send me things every week. Okay, it's just like you're clogging up my email, you're clogging up everything, and all I'm doing is unsubscribing then. So you have to let them make the decision.
Right.
But you know, but have a rapport and then ask them questions.
Yeah.
You know, well, what makes you think it's going to be 5 years? Are you expecting a job change? Are you retiring? Or where are you planning on moving to? You know, just normal things. You know that normal interest. Like, why are they selling? You know, and then you might find things that accelerate because things change in people's lives. You know, the guy who expected to retire in 5 years, all of a sudden his company says, hey, here's a really nice package, and he's out of there in 2. You know, so you just don't know, but it's just another point contact.
Yeah.
And again, everybody's going to react differently. So is anybody familiar with Robert Rome, the DISC personality stuff? Have you ever seen that?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So I learned a valuable lesson about people. There are people like me who I don't really want to know the exact numbers. Ballpark me, I'm good enough. But there are people who I probably would not get along very well with because they want to know to the very penny.
Gotta retell it.
And so here's the deal. You have to structure it for them. It doesn't matter what you want to do or how you are. You will lose that client if you don't give them exactly what they want.
There's a really good book called Versatile Selling that really breaks it down on a very simple basis. And it talks about the D, like the D-I-S-C. Like,
Yep.
I'm a high D as well, so to me, I can probably relate on my personal, like the level I like to communicate with probably 3% of the population. That means 97% of people are not like me. So if I talk to them like I want to be talked to, it's not going to be received. So that's,
Right.
it's a tough soft skill to learn, but it's very valuable.
And one of the things that I've heard over and over again is it's not the person who receives the message, it's the person who sends the message. So if there's miscommunication, it's not the receiver, it's the sender. So sometimes you'll say something to somebody and you see like a blank look, go back, rephrase it, you know, and see what you can do with them. And then the other thing is, how do we control the client post-contract? Because they're under contract, right? Now they're really nervous. So now they have to make their deposit. The wiring of deposits is becoming, I think, pretty standard today. And I like it. We don't have to worry about deliveries. We don't have to worry about anything else. The money gets wired. Now the money's wired, they have a full commitment to that contract. But you have to manage them through the entire process, the home inspections and all of that. And there's going to be moments where they're going to panic, and you're going to have to walk through that, and I'll go through that in a little bit. But with your home inspectors, be picky. We just had some really bad home inspections down in Southern Chester County. I was furious, absolutely furious. Guy says there was damage to the roof. He never went up on the roof. Okay, he did a drone, and it wasn't that high off the ground. He should have gone up on the roof. But there was nothing. There was like 2 nail pops. And the flashing around the chimney, which is normal because chimneys move. They always tilt towards the sun because they shrink more on that side. So your flashings have to get bigger as time goes on. So, Yeah, I mean, you may start out with a 2-inch flashing, go to 4. I've seen brick chimneys, real tall brick chimneys in old buildings. They've literally moved 6 inches at the base.
Because
So-
it moves towards the sun.
Yeah, because the mortar, yeah, they always move towards that sun.
Interesting.
So,
Fun fact I didn't know, I'm stealing that.
feel free.
Put that on a reel, like, some
Did you know?
So,
Truck on a chimney.
the home inspector also said the windows were in failure. All of them. So I go to the house. I'm like, I don't believe this. There's no way I missed that. I go to the house and I'm looking, I'm like, he's right, they're all in failure. And then I saw some Clorox wipes because the people had just moved out. I took the Clorox wipes and I started wiping the inside of the window, and then I wiped the outside of the window. They weren't in failure, they were just dirty. I kid you not. And I was convinced that they were in failure too. And I went down there.
Failure meaning like moisture was getting in?
Yeah, the seal had failed. Yeah, but they were dirty. So I called the window washer and said, "Hey, can you go down and wash the windows for that house for me?" Isn't that crazy? I'm not going to say.
I was gonna say, can you pass that?
But then the well company came out and they said, "Wow, this well is really bad. It needs $17,000 worth of work."
That's a whole new well.
Yeah. Well, here's the issue. Okay, nothing's wrong with the well. 0. So I called the well inspector on it. Oh no, there's nothing wrong with anything. That's just our recommendations.
Oh my gosh.
How did you know there
We
was
almost
no
lost.
Money.
Well, I've been around long enough to know some of that stuff. And then my client, who actually is selling the house, used to work in the well and septic business. And then we knew the fellow who actually put the pump in 3 years ago before he bought the house. So we called him down in Southern Chester County. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? So then my client works for Pico, and they said there was electricity leak going into the ground and all. So my client, his father, and his 3 brothers all work for Pico. They go over and put their meters on it and take the videos. And we send those to the well company. We send those to the agent. So this is the kind of stuff you have to figure out, you know. And then the buyer gave us he wanted 4%, so he wanted about $17,000 to fix everything, and we said, you can have 5, that's it. He said, I'm walking. We said, please do, because there's only 5 houses on the market in Southern Chester County under $500,000 in these 2 school districts. 2 of them are really bad, on an acre or more, and we'll put this house back up and get $30,000 more for it.
Exactly.
And guess what? He took the $5,000. So, mortgages. This to me is what got me going again, and I'm going to share that with you. I think this was the most important thing. If you have the right lender, you can close deals, and it's not going to be just one lender. I know it's not what everybody wants to hear in this room, but it's a fact. Every lender they're really good at certain things. Okay. And so you need that right lender for that specific situation. I sold a farm in Southern Chester County, rural, 10.6 acres, Fannie Mae. And everybody said, no, you can't do it. I talked to 3 lenders, can't do it. Guess what, we did it. Okay, it's not supposed to go, not supposed to go rural. Well, and we couldn't get an appraiser because there's 3 buildings on the property, 3 outbuildings, 3 monster outbuildings. Nobody wanted to do the appraisal. So we had to put it out for bid. It cost $1,000 to get the appraisal. But guess what? People got their farm. And they got a great interest rate. And so if you're ever stuck in a rural situation like that, the credit unions in Pennsylvania have banded together in Harrisburg, and they actually have an agricultural group that they put together to help people buy farms and to buy rural property. So there's a whole bunch of credit unions, Bucks County, Montgomery, Delaware, Chester, Dauphin County. They get together and they look at the deal, and then 3 or 4 of them each take a piece of the deal. It doesn't have to be a big deal. That's what they do. All the underwriting is done through a company in Ohio that does the underwriting for all the credit unions. But it's a way for people to buy rural property. And you get good rates, and you can go 5% down, 10% down, whatever it may be. So a lot of people don't know that, but that's really a great resource. We had another situation where, on that farm property too, just so you know, one of the primary earners just got a net check from his boss. His boss is some really rich dude down in Greenville. And so what he does is at the end of the year, he sends him his W-2, but he doesn't get pay stubs. So they took a letter from the accountant that this is what he makes, this is what comes out of every paycheck, and that's it. And that's what they used for the underwriting. Pretty good, huh? So we had a lot of waivers on that deal. We had another one recently where the house, it's a short sale. House has been sitting around. The estate's bankrupt. The woman died. The house is a disaster in Hershey's Mill. I mean, a disaster. And the appraiser that went through said it was worth $470,000 from the lender. So we requested, and after about 2 months, we requested another appraiser go through from the lender. And they said, you cannot talk to the appraiser. We're not allowed. Either the selling agent or the buying agent can't talk to them. But what they didn't say was we couldn't leave our estimates of all the repairs on the kitchen countertop. So appraisal came back where we needed it to be, 407. We knocked that much off of the appraisal. So
you went from 470
to 407. And then, because then there's a $22,000 assessment for roofs.
And it's a short sale, so you can't talk to the appraiser, but the appraiser is gonna dictate what the bank is willing to do.
Well, he can't dictate it, but what he can do is, it goes a long way for the bank to see that their numbers based upon what they want to get out of the loan are unrealistic. And this lender was a lender who bought the loan at a discount to begin with. So it was just a matter of how much profit they wanted to make on that loan. They wanted to regulate their profit margin. They didn't make as much as they wanted, but my guy got the house. And we stuck.
Is that a Hershey Mill property that could be worth $600,000 if it's all fixed up?
Correct.
Was that faster?
Yes.
Was it the one with like the planter in the center?
Yes.
Nightmare, I was in there 3 times.
Yep.
Yeah, that place will be beautiful.
Yeah, he got it. So
That's a lot of work.
that's one thing. And then also I kind of manipulated the system a little bit on another deal. We were putting the property on the market. It was going to go on Friday, but the people called me up on Thursday late in the afternoon and said, we're ready. I had an agent call me up and said, I really want to see the house. She said, I'll bring you a deal tonight. I put the property active immediately. Boom. She went out, brought me a deal that night, full price. So because I sat down at the computer and put the property active, we got a nice deal. So that was pretty, so you listen to the agents. She knew what she was doing. She had worked with these people. They had already lost a bunch of houses, and it was $675,000. So it was nothing to sneeze at. And she knew these people. I mean, I just got a good vibe, okay? Anybody ever get that from somebody you're working with? You get a vibe and so that's all it was. So then let's take a look at also price versus down payment and monthly pay. Problem with our cost sheets in the MLS, the PMI is not accurate at all. And I'll give you an example. If you have a 800 credit score and you're putting 10% down, and let's suppose your loan balance is about 300, your PMI can be as low as $35. It's very credit score driven. So the cool thing is, if you have a client who says, I really want to put down 20, but you're not finding what you want in the price range where they can put down 20%, drop them to 15%. If their credit score is good, that PMI is going to be so small. But now they have cash. They have more cash for down payment. They have more cash post-closing, and so they're not going in there broke anymore. And so it cost them $40 more a month, but they got the house that they really wanted at a price they could afford.
Right. And
So-
then 5% more in their pocket, right?
You got it.
So,
So-
20 to 50.
Yeah, so you can have an extra $25,000 or $20,000 post-closing. But if you go into the our MLS, that PMI might come up at like $239. So you have to talk to the lender on that, because the lender will give you what that PMI is going to be. So if you have good credit score people, talk to the lenders. And Sean at our office sends me the rates. United Wholesale seems to always have the best rates. And I think if you have a completely clean deal, perfect. But not every deal is clean. So you got to feel out your buyers as you go along. And I'll give you another example. We had one of the guys, Paul from our office, called me. Deal fell through. The people were supposed to apply for conventional applied for FHA. So what could go wrong? Well, here's the thing. Anytime you apply for a FHA, USDA, VA loan, the government does a deep dive, and there's a whole separate website that the underwriters have to go to. This guy had back taxes, not liened, just back taxes. And it came up. If they didn't go through the FHA, that would have the conventional lender would have never known at all. Same thing with people who are defaulted student loans. It could be off their credit report. But if you go into that, but if they do that FHA deal, it's going to get picked up. And now the lender knows it, so they can't ignore it. So they have to switch lenders.
Does that hold true, like if, you know, like you got an FHA deal that falls through on a listing, it hold, you know, or like a repairs, it holds for what, 6 months?
Yeah.
Is it the same thing with that, like the buyer side?
The buyers are, until they either go into a payment plan with the IRS or the Student Loan Servicing Center, they can't buy a house. And they have to make at least 3 payments. But guess where their debt ratio is now? So their buyer's financial is totally like blown up. And, you know, maybe they can't buy a house now. Or they have to go back and, you know, get another lender or go find another house and do a conventional deal. So just be aware of that. Like, ask people questions. You know, just, well, do you owe any back taxes? I just had one yesterday. She wants to buy a house. She owes $21,000 in back taxes. Not liened. But we were talking about going FHA. We're not going FHA, obviously, for that reason. Credit scores, why use FHA? Because everybody gets the same rate. So if you have a client who has a 660, you can take them FHA and they get the same rate as somebody who has 800. There's no difference. So in this marketplace, with everything being credit score driven, FHA certainly has its place. And don't be afraid of it. The biggest problem I'm seeing is the newer, younger agents never had to deal in an FHA environment before, don't know how to do it, don't understand it. You know, oh my God, FHA, it's horrible. You have all these repairs. No, you don't. You really don't. I mean, I lived on FHA for years, and it's a great program.
Question I have for you on that.
Go ahead.
Is, I mean, how hard is it, so I had something similar, it wasn't the house for my client, so I'm glad it didn't go through. But if she was to ask for repairs, because she was USDA, and it was a as-is property, escrowing the money, that, like if FHA called some stuff out, like on the septic or a well or whatever it may have been, how could you have escrowed, I mean, how would that, I was trying to figure out how that would all came into play, because my lender was like, you can just escrow the funds for closing, but that would have been my buyer putting that money in escrow, right, until it was repaired?
It depends. FHA has a lot of flexibility on where the money comes from. The important thing is to have a mortgage company that has an FHA approved underwriter in-house. Okay. In the old days, you actually used to be able to call up the FHA and the VA. The guy at the VA, I still remember his name, Gene Scotty. Hey, Gene, what do you want us to do? He'd tell you right over the phone. That doesn't exist anymore. So you're going to have to work really hard with your underwriters to get that done. Condos, warrantable, non-warrantable condos. Does anybody know the difference? So it depends on the investor ratio. So if the investor ratio is too high, it's non-warrantable. You can't go Fannie Mae or Freddie for investors. Doesn't mean you can't go Fannie or Freddie as a home owner. So if the investor ratio is 60% and you're an investor, you need what's called a non-warrantable loan. There's a lot of lenders out there that do them. Some do them well, some don't do them well. Some require as little as 5% down, some require 20% down. The rates are all over the place. So you might have to call around or find a lender if you're doing that type of work that feels comfortable with that type of loan. And then there's a lot of state programs. So if you guys can go through this, let's go back like to the third page. I put a real estate checklist in there. That's something I use in the front of every file. And I added to the top, send docs to office, because on one recent deal, I forgot to send the docs to Tracy. Seriously. Like, I just missed it. Went to closing and everything. Yeah, seriously. So I added that at the very top in bold so I don't forget anymore. But this is just something that keeps me on track. It gives me dates received, any notes that I have, things we have to do, home inspections, And I think it's fairly comprehensive. So if you guys want to use it, steal it. And then I went into, how do you get buyers today? Well, everybody wants to buy a house, but they can't afford it, right? Well, PHFA has a lot of programs right now where they'll lend you up to 5% of your purchase. Yeah, so you got the house. You got the house, and you have a second loan that's payable, that's forgiven over 10 years or payable. So you're good to go with that. There's all kinds of different programs out there. So there's some, and the income limit for some of these programs is $180,000. So if you have a client who doesn't have any money and they want to buy a house and they're not afraid of the monthly payment, might be something worth looking into. Credit score starting at 660. And then we have from PHFA again, the emergency loan program. It's actually an energy program, $10,000 for your clients so they can replace windows, doors, put in insulation, things like that. And right here you'll see it. If you borrow $10,000, it's $88 a month.
And that's like a second mortgage then?
Correct, it is. Then there's a mortgage credit program. If your buyer qualifies, they can get up to $2,000 a year direct federal tax credit, not a deduction, direct credit. So you can get that through PHFA. And then also they have a program to help people fix and install sewer systems and hook up to private public systems. And the loan maximum on that is $25,000 with an interest rate of 1.75%. So that's all through PHFA. And then I also have HUD.gov. The website's there at the top. If you want to see if a condominium is approved for FHA financing, that's where you go. It's this one. It's this one right here.
What's the one before that with the sewage disposal?
That's where you can, if you're a homeowner, if you have a client who needs a new septic system, they'll lend them up to $25,000 to put a system in.
really?
Yes.
That's nice.
I've never
I've
never heard that before.
Yep.
Me neither.
Where to tie in. Yeah, it's really a nice deal.
So you get that through your lender?
You have to go, well, PHFA will help, they'll do it direct, actually, with them.
So could you do a loan through us and then PHFA for the septic?
Yes. Primary residence only.
Wow,
Sweet.
never knew that.
So these are all tools that help you sell houses. You know, it's got to be a septic. It's okay, we can take care of that.
Steve, on that program, I'm looking at this, the loans must be immediately repaid of the property on which the project is located, is sold or transferred. So if you, suppose you have a seller and they know the septic's marginal, could they do this loan, get the septic fixed, put it on the market, and then there's no prepayment?
There's no prepayment, and then what happens is, you're good. So the people don't have to, like, you don't have to beg the septic guy to come out and get paid post-settlement, okay, like we used to. And you can actually get an install now done and market the property with a brand new septic, and the loan just gets paid off at closing.
For a septic system, not just the
Correct.
Oh, that's fucking awesome.
That's a
Wait,
huge
can we
goal.
fill that?
So my goal today was just to, hopefully, if people could just learn, yeah, I just wanted people to learn one thing that they could use today to help them make one more sale. That was my whole objective here today. Sean and I talked about that.
Yeah.
But, so you can actually, the state has a program to help you repair or install septic systems or tie into public sewers. It's a loan, it's a second mortgage. You can borrow up to $25,000 at 1.75%.
So guys, think about that for a second, because if you have a failed septic system, who are your buyers? What's your buyer pool? Mostly cash buyers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Other, what kind of lenders can take a failed septic system, especially if it's reported. So now you just increase your sellers gonna really.
So
That's probably.
you can do a conventional and then go through PHFA to get that loan.
Or you can have your seller borrow the money, put the new system in, and now you're selling a house with a brand new septic.
Right, that's what I was saying.
Just do it preemptively before the
Yeah.
listing.
Right.
Yeah.
So it says all homeowners, so if I own the property, and it's an investment property, if I own the name, if it's an investment property, but I own the property in my own name, and have the mortgage in my own name.
Technically, no, obviously.
Yep.
Yeah, I kind of figured I was going to go that, with this group, I kind of figured I was going to go down that road, but. Yeah, so, what else here? I'm just trying to get through this for you guys quickly. So they're state programs, interest rate cycles. I remember borrowing money one time from a guy, 14% for one of my flips. And I said, well, give me a 1-year loan. He said, no, I'm giving you a 7-year loan. I'm like, why? Pretty smart guy in Westchester here at the time. He's dead now. He said, because interest rates tend to run in 7-year cycles. He said, I don't want you getting stuck in a loan, having to pay me back and not be able to refinance it. So as we're working with these buyers and sellers now, just remember those rates run in cycles. So be aware of that. And it's traditionally in the United States, it's 7 to 10-year cycles. So rates go up and then they come down. Condominiums, I'll be really quick. Documents. What are the limits? Like some condos say no pets. Some condos say no dogs. So you go and sell your client a condo and he's got a Rottweiler and now no dogs, only cats. So the condominiums can do whatever they want. They can do whatever rules they want. They can say no investors. They have. Is it really?
So you can go to this, put it in the condo name in the state, and it'll bring up all their.
It'll tell you whether
regulations?
it'll just tell you whether they're approved to do FHA.
Approved to FHA, got it, okay.
So Goshen Valley 1 and 2, I just checked, are now back on the FHA list. Goshen Valley 1 was off the FHA list because they failed to renew timely with HUD, but then they got it in and they're back on the list again.
But investor though wise, right?
No more investors.
No more, yeah. 'cause
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah. Goshen Valley 1 and 2.
Existing or grandfathered in?
Grandfather, of course. And then HOAs are another story, you know, what's covered by your HOA fee, what isn't covered. Some of the HOAs are very dictatorial, you know, but the problem is like my HOA, I'm putting a shed in. The guy, so the HOA says to me, well, you have to show us a picture of the shed. We have to approve it. We have to tell you where you can put it. And I'm like, no. Because there's every type of shed, every material, and every location in this neighborhood. So that ship has sailed. And that's the really cool thing about HOAs. Once they allow somebody to do it, it's out. It's over. So if one person gets a fence and nobody says anything or does anything about it, that no fence rule, it's out. So just be aware of that. Post-sale, setting the expectations. You know, you're going to sell a house and something's going to go wrong with that house because things break. And the first call is going to be you. And they may not blame you. They may blame you. They may just want to pick your brain to see if you can help them get it out of the situation or what it may be. So I attached something I recommend to all buyers who buy a house because it's Aqua, it's HomeServe. You can go to the HomeServe website, Aqua. It'll cover your water and sewer lines coming into the house, cleaning them, breakage, whatever. I used it once at my house, a $3,800 fix, cost me $75. Okay, it was pretty good. But what it does is it also takes the burden off of you for things that go wrong because people leave a house and maybe the sellers tell the buyers everything, maybe they don't. And if they don't, and it surfaces post-settlement, chasing those buyers and, as you know, going after lawsuits and spending years in court and more money in attorney's fees than it's ever worth. If you have something like this, it just solves the problem. Also now, whoever you use for insurance or whoever your client uses, sewer backup is available. Actually, some of these same coverages are available now through your homeowner's insurance company. So, okay, a lot of people don't know that. I didn't know that until recently.
So this is
It
insurance?
also seems like a lot of people are like not pushing home warranties as much as they used to for some reason. That's what I'm seeing. Where I think it's
Yeah.
so important to still at least tell the clients about home warranty.
Right.
So we know about it. And then like a lot of times we've had some claims come back where, you know, a buyer buys a house, especially if someone just like rehabbed it or whatever, and then, you know, versus say the flipper saying, no, I'm not gonna do anything. Number one, if it's a small repair, recommend, if you have a listing, recommend the seller take care of it, or say, are your buyers comfortable filing a claim? And then have that listing, you know, the seller pay for the deductible.
Right.
I mean, there's other ways to eliminate this huge, you know, if someone has $100,000 worth of damage, okay, well, how much is their deductible, right? And at least try to negotiate that versus saying no and just, because then you're gonna get hit with something.
Yeah,
We've
there's,
had it a bunch of times.
and it is also about home warranties. I think it's an American Home Warranty. Is that the company? AHW.
Yeah.
They come into our office all the time. They have a new program or a new package. It's extra $100, but they will now cover washer and dryer, which the majority don't, and up to $1,000, I believe, on the sewer lateral line. And it's an extra like $90 or something.
America Home Warranty.
I wanna say it's.
Claudia, is it Claudia?
I have no idea who comes in.
There's also one that even if your client signs no thank you on the form, God forbid something comes up after the fact, the company will cover the E&O deductible
Yeah,
for the agent.
that's APHW, yeah.
Yeah,
They used to give, my old brokers used to give a little bit of a kickback, like every time you had somebody buy, they'd be like, here's an extra something, thank you.
yeah, it's like 50 or
Yeah.
Buy this before they put their house for sale or
No, it's
That
for
would
the
be
buyers.
American Warranty too.
But could it?
I have
It's not
stacks
hard
of
to
their
buy
stuff.
it.
If you go on their website, you get like,
Right.
they'll ship you all the
Reimburse.
marketing
Yeah.
for free.
Andrew's not in the, on the road anymore. I think
I would
it's
say
Claudia.
that.
No, it's that girl.
Yeah.
So, and I don't wanna derail Steve, but just going back to what you said with insurance, some of them cover sewer laterals. You know, some insurance policies really don't even cover much water damage, even in the
Yeah.
property.
Yeah.
So, you know, make sure whoever your insurance agent is that you're using, if you're recommending them, or if your buyers are just getting someone, make sure they actually understand their insurance policy, because not all insurance is created equal.
There's a lot of add-ons you can put on those policies.
So those who are doing listings, are you kind of mentioning this to your clients that are gonna list their house to get a home warranty? Because I've done that in the past and they just shut me down. And I'm like, but, you know, like trying to explain to them
I
how
would just
it
think,
could be
it's like, how
beneficial
would
to
you
them.
feel if after you sell the house and there's some sort of issue with it, that it's just covered versus having to deal with it?
But
You know, it's
can't
not gonna
you-
alleviate all their
I had a
liability.
client just ask me that, and I was like, no, it's not really worth it because you have everything covered, but maybe it is.
I
But,
think
but
it's
that,
really worth
how about
it.
if you have home inspections and something comes in, can't you use that warranty if you already have it on your house?
Yes, it's a really good point. So if you list a house and you have the homeowner say, I want to provide a home warranty, if anything happens during the time between the listing and settlement, it's covered under that home warranty.
Right.
Some of them have a period of, like a waiting period.
Yeah.
Right.
So when it kicks in 30
It's
days.
just how many layers can you add, you know, and
Right.
it's, you have to educate your client, and we'll make the decisions, but at least you did your part. You know, if you're not bringing up insurance, home warranty, you know, water and sewer line coverage, right? Like, there's a lot of things that you can do that, just trust me, when you get those calls, it's just gonna ruin your day.
So
It's
you,
gonna ruin their day, it's gonna, you know.
Yeah.
so for $10 a month, you got your water line, your sewer lines covered.
Yep.
It's a pretty good deal. And then I know I'm running a little over here, so I want to be really quick and get this thing out. But
You're good, Steve.
am I?
Yeah, do what you do. People are listening, keep going.
Does it matter being part-time or full-time? I watched a agent here, I just had a discussion with Sean about it. He worked for Remax, he was a school teacher. The guy he nailed it every year, 100,000 plus. Remax Club, he made really good use of his time. He wanted that school salary, he wanted that pension from the school district, and he's retired now. He doesn't even do real estate anymore. I mean, he's done. But so he did that, and he killed it. So and I'm not working. I told these guys I don't want to work 50 hours a week. You know, I went out 4 hours on a Saturday, go out 4 hours on a Sunday. My wife's not happy all the time, but guess what? You know, it's not a hard life. If you want to be like Rob is killing it, okay, and I'm going to use you as an example if you don't mind, but it's not, everybody doesn't want to be Rob. Like, I only want to do, and I told these guys, 1.5, 2 deals a month. I can live on that. I'm happy with that. I want some time back. You know what I'm saying? But some people want to do 50 deals a month, or, you know, and that's everybody. So the cool thing about this business is, you know, you can structure this business to fit your life. You know, you don't have to be like everybody else. You know, there are guys that still run around showing houses in suits. There are guys running around showing houses in shorts. Okay? And I'm driving a 2003 Toyota Camry. It's clean. but it's not some, it's not some $100,000 car, far from it. So it's a mindset for you. And you can say, you know what, I'm happy. Like, I don't even worry about the size of the deals. It's like, if you do 2, you're good. If you do 1, just start out with doing 1 a month. If you do 1 a month in 6 months, you know how much money you're going to make? It's a lot of money. So you can structure, and the cool thing is, I will say this, Sean and Steve, amazing. George, I don't know as well, but his one training class he did, I stole a lot from. If you can get that from George, it's definitely worth getting. Showing the kids a house in the Poconos, Sean stepped right up, gave me everything I needed. Every time I've ever called Steve, he's there. I needed some information, boom, I had it in my email, like right away. I've never seen this anywhere else. And I think if we had 300 agents, you're only going to have probably 15% active anyhow. So to have the group that we have with people like Rob and Steve and Sean, and Greg, you have a lot, George, you have a lot of people in this room, Susan, who have a lot of experience, and I've never seen anybody say no to somebody else or not help them. So to me, that's huge, and that helps you. So I kind of geared some of this towards prospecting and started over because that's kind of like where my head was at. And I'm not going to gear this towards like ongoing marketing because that's certainly not my, my bailiwick. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and I'm happy with that. But if you want to learn more, talk to these other guys. Everybody has concerns about prospecting. It's really easy because everybody wants to talk about real estate. Everybody wants to talk about real estate. Everybody wants to talk about homes. Everybody has a dream. Everybody has a wish list.
I feel like everyone's like, you don't stop talking about real estate, and like everyone just brings it up.
Right. There you go.
Like I'm insane, I can't stop.
Yeah. So when you love something, it really comes across to the other people that you're working with too, because they know that you love it and you care. Retirement and choice of entities, there's a lot of different retirement programs that realtors can do. One of the things that we can take advantage of, it depends upon how you structure your business, but we are considered real estate professionals. So technically, we can use our investment property depreciation to actually reduce our earned income. You guys know that, right? So it's a much more advantageous than just using it, because this way maybe if you don't hit that magic number of like whatever it is, 140 for Social Security, you can save that 15.3% on that Social Security tax by having property deductions or whatever it may be. Retirement programs, you can supercharge them after you turn 50. Like the government says, man, you can just start throwing money into them. It's crazy. And choice of entity, for my flips, I have an LLC doing business as an S Corp for specific reasons, because all of our flip money goes into pension plans, or just about all the money. So very little comes out. So the fact is, like, you can put away $140,000, and your wife can put away $140,000. Well, that's $280,000 in a pension plan that you get to keep. Isn't that cool? And the nice thing about it is, you can actually self-deal with that pension plan. You're not, with some of these programs, like with your IRA and your 401, like you can't use the money to buy your own property. It has to be an investment. You can use your pension plan to put a down payment on your house if that's what you want to do. You want to go on vacation, you can use it. You want to buy a car, you can use it. There's no limits on it. It's really a cool thing. You're going to have to pay yourself back with interest, obviously. And there's going to be like some formal documents that need to be done, notes and all. But
can you quickly go through the real estate professional election and taking passive losses against your active income? Because I think that is the biggest tax advantage that we have that a lot of people have no idea about, that I didn't know about. Once you start buying rental properties.
right.
Can you touch on that real quick? Or
Yeah, and I'm really not the guy to. Steve probably knows more about it than I do, quite frankly.
I know the requirements. So like I'm elected as a real estate professional on my tax returns, and as far as I know, there's no other way in the tax code to offset your active income with passive losses. So if you buy rental property, you can take that depreciation, that's gonna offset your income from your rental income, which is passive income, but your commission is your active income, okay? So if you make $1 million in commission and you have $1 million in depreciation from your real estate, you can essentially pay no taxes. I mean, when everyone got mad at Trump, because he wasn't paying taxes, this is like the rule that he's using, which is buying commercial real estate using accelerated depreciation to offset your active income. So if anyone has questions on it, well, here's the requirements. 750 hours a year. 250 can be your real estate sales. 500 of those hours has to be material participation in your rentals, and it excludes bookkeeping, driving time, searching for properties. So it's really like property management, rental, leasing, anything like that. But if you do 50 weeks out of the year times 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, that's 500 hours. So because it's 10 hours a week times it. So if you meet that requirement, like I'll probably have like $300,000, $400,000 in passive losses this year, which means I could make 400 grand and basically pay no tax.
Right. And I'm going to give you.
It's so important to start understanding this now. Because my mentor, he was telling me his active income is like 3.2 million this year, and he's like, so at the beginning of the year, I made sure I buy at least enough real estate that I can accelerate the depreciation and offset that. He hasn't paid taxes since 1980. And it's always because he keeps buying more real estate. So it's like, why are you gonna pay the IRS, or are you gonna continue to create wealth for yourself and your family?
It's the same thing with the pension plan programs that I'm talking about.
It's super important to understand it.
Most people miss it. I've watched so many real estate people like you said file tax returns and they never even use it.
You're so focused on growing your business by 20, 30%. If you just are more 20, 30% more tax efficient, you did the same thing with no work.
Now, the same thing with the pension plan. Why would you just put away 60 if you can put away 150? Now, what I would encourage you to do is make sure you show at least $12,000 on your Schedule C bottom line, because that way you get your 4 quarters of Social Security credit. So it's worth paying a little bit of tax to get that credit for, the end game in Social Security. And I put something on the back here specifically for the investor guys. So what Steve said about that, and the other thing is if you buy a property and you do a rehab on it and then rent it, you could do market segmentation. So if you put a roof on it and that roof has a lifespan of 20 years, you can write that roof off over 20. If you put carpets in and the expected lifespan is 5 years, you can write those carpets off over 5. You're not stuck with this. You can actually segment out every repair that you do and put a different life on it, and then, and that's why you have computers to do your taxes today, because nobody else you couldn't keep track of it. But for the investors, I put some stuff on the back here. It's a really cool thing. It's called Placer AI. Anybody ever hear of it? I know Rob uses a lot of different things. This is basically, you can pick a spot and you can say what you want to put in there: an apartment building, a mall, casinos, stadiums, theme parks. It's at the very back here. And it'll tell you. So what I printed out was the retail one, but you can go into this and find out anything. And they'll tell you like who's shopping, where, what they're buying, what stores they're going to, where they're coming from. So what it does is it really, if you're buying investment property, you want to buy investment property where the numbers are probably ticking up instead of ticking down. So it's a great way to get some information on locations that you might not otherwise get. The other thing is RPR. I forgot to put that on here. RPR is awesome. Anybody here not use RPR yet?
What is RPR?
Realtors.
Property resource.
Rob, of all people,
You got it.
Through our Realty Association, it's free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listing flyers, it's got data, it's got
Yeah.
so much. Sorry, everyone, I'll let you guys
So RPR basically has every property in the United States in its database.
Yep.
You can see how much the mortgage is, who owns it, whatever. You can do your own you can do market analysis through it. You can do CMAs through it. When I was showing the kids the mountain houses, because we were out of that area that you and I were talking about, I went into RPR. It brought up every listing, every sale, gave me all the information on the realtors, who they were, and so I in one fell swoop, I got the new listings and all the comps. You know, and the other thing too is it picks up stuff that didn't go through the MLS. So it's one of my go-to things.
Another one too I use, it's 25